Hello and welcome to this month's issue of Marlborough Magazine. I'm Susan Laufer.
And I'm Dan Ginden. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a little while since we did the last one.
I know. Where have we been?
Wow, we've been a little busy with elections and all that kind of stuff. So we had to sit back and take care of that stuff for a little while.
So what do we have going this month?
Oh, we got a lot going this month. In fact, our first story has to do with knitting. This is a stereotype where a lot of people think knitting just goes with old women. That's not the case here. Rob O'Keefe has the story for us.
Last summer I was making all these little baby hats, and my roommate happened to be going to see the Jon Stewart show, the Daily Show with Jon Stewart in New York. And I had this idea in the morning, and I said, why don't you bring him one of my little hats? Because I knew his wife just had a baby. And so I gave it to her, and she brought it, and she gave it to him in the audience, from the audience. And she said, my roommate knit this for you. He said, do you live with an 80-year-old woman? And she said, no, lots of people knit. Lots of young people knit.
For a craft that has been around for quite some time, the popularity of knitting today is an example of what's old is new. More people are picking up the craft, men, women, old, and young alike.
I've seen the trend escalating in probably at least the last 8 years or so. I'm not sure exactly what started it.
Diane Isaacson is a knitting veteran. For many in the area, she is a kind of royalty. Her father-in-law is an owner of the Fabric Place, a local business. But family ties aside, Diane is an experienced and dedicated knitter. After working at the Fabric Place for many years, she recently found a new way to use her knitting knowledge.
I left a job where I was involved with a lot of knitters 2 years ago, and I was feeling a little isolated. And a friend of mine had a daughter who was learning how to knit, and we've known each other for 12 years, and she said, I know you're kind of crafty. My daughter just learned how to knit, and she has a problem. Do you know anybody who could help? And I said, do I ever? Is it like an emergency? Do I need lights and sirens, or do I have time to get a babysitter for my kids? She said, sure, come by later this afternoon, and I did. And I helped her daughter get back on track, and her daughter had a friend who was knitting, whose mom was there, who used to knit, and before you know it, we had a little knitting circle going right in my friend's kitchen.
Diane's knitting group is not unique. From church groups to neighborhood groups to local chapters of the national Stitch and Bitch organization, today's knitters are getting together to practice their craft.
I'm honestly a purely social knitter. I don't pick this up much during the week, so I really enjoy the social aspect of it, and having people over, and gives me a reason to clean my house and stuff like that.
Actually crochet, but I've always wanted to learn how to knit, and I was invited into this knitting group, and thought it was a great opportunity for me to learn how to knit.
As winter approaches, knitting has a special appeal for knitters.
I'm much more motivated to knit in the winter than in summer. And you can wear what you make.
However, the avid knitter can knit year-round.
I think people tend to think about knitting more in the fall and winter, but it is a year-round hobby for me.
To get started with knitting, all you need are 2 knitting needles and a ball of yarn, called a skein. There are 2 types of stitches in knitting, the knit and the purl. But the first step is to get the yarn on the needle.
So the first thing you have to do is get the yarn or string onto the needle. And I do that by creating a slip knot. So if there are any Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts out there, it's an easy thing to do. Otherwise, I'll show you. You wrap around your fingers, make a peace sign, I say. Slip the yarn up through that, and then put it onto your needle, and it will slide up. And that's so that your stitches can be secured to the needle and still have room to create the next stitch. And it's really, knitting is just a series of interlocking loops that create a flexible fabric. So to create that, I insert the needle into one of these loops. You can see how there are two parts, a front and a back. You just insert the needle, wrap the yarn over the needle that's inserted, and you draw the yarn towards you. Just put it on top. You can do that again. And that's one way to get the yarn onto the needles. There are many ways to do it. One of the easiest ways, if this seems complicated to you, is just twist the yarn on itself. And so you just are transferring that yarn from one needle to the next, creating the first row of stitches and creating your fabric. And then when you're done, you just reverse the position of the needles, and you can see how you've got one row of the fabric already established. And you start with the process again, and you just use the needle to create a knit stitch, going across the entire row. Some knitters find it a little bit awkward at first because there isn't a lot of established fabric. You know, gravity eventually will help you to manipulate the stitches, but it's a little difficult at first.
There are many different types of yarn available on the market, from wool to mohair to man-made. You can even take two yarns and combine them.
This is an example of a man-made fiber that's got sort of a look of tinsel to it, and it's got these little bumps. And this is made to combine with another fiber so that you can create a fabric that has these little accents running through them. And then there's a thin fiber in between them that will get buried into whatever you combine it with. This is another man-made fiber that's just a really sort of fluffy, almost has the feeling of a boa. It's very soft. And so you can see how if you combine these two, it gives you an interesting look. And that's actually what I used in this scarf.
From social opportunity to creative outlet, today's knitters have many reasons for pursuing their craft.
It's relaxing. And I like the feel of the yarn because it's soft.
It's almost like therapy. Some people watch TV and I feel like I'm rotting my brain maybe, I don't know. I feel like I need to be productive at all times. So if I need to zone out instead of watching TV, I knit.
So look out, Marlborough. The colorful scarves and mittens you see this winter might just be from the hands of one of our local knitters. This local knitter plans to stick to her craft for a long time to come.
Until I'm old and dead. Yeah, it's really fun.
For Marlborough Magazine, I'm Rob O'Keefe.
Susan?
Mm-hmm.
I think you're supposed to intro this next story.
Oh, hold on. Just finish my row. Okay. Just whip this up for you.
Oh, very nice. It'll look great in the back of my closet.
Gosh. Well, more people than ever are being diagnosed with the disease called diabetes. Sophie Burke takes a look at this disease and how to manage it over the upcoming holiday season.
With over 20 million people in the United States suffering from diabetes, chances are that you or someone you know has the disease. And although holidays can be a challenging time for people with diabetes, it doesn't mean they can't have fun.
The holidays are a particularly challenging time for diabetics as well as most Americans because of all the food that's available to us, especially sweet treats, desserts, candies, etc., that are available at all the holiday parties, presents that are given to people, things that are in the work environment. So it's particularly challenging for a diabetic to control their blood sugars.
blood sugars, insulin. Diabetes is a complicated disease. Sandy Krafzig, the diabetes educator at Marlborough Hospital, raises awareness of the disease and teaches people how to manage it.
Diabetes is a chronic disease that usually tells you that your body's either not making enough insulin or the fact that your body is unable to use the insulin that you currently make.
Every person needs insulin. Insulin is the thing that lets the cells in our bodies use the sugar we feed it. If our body isn't producing insulin, or if our body isn't using the insulin we produce, then our cells don't get the fuel they need to function.
Type 1 diabetes is usually called an immune disorder disease, and that's something that attacks your beta cells that destroy them, so your body's not able to make any insulin at all. And those people who have type 1 diabetes, because they don't make insulin, they need to take insulin, usually by injection. With people with type 2 diabetes, it usually starts out more because of insulin resistance. Perhaps people have gained too much weight, they're not active enough, there's changes in their blood pressure, changes in their cholesterol, and that requires more insulin to keep their blood sugars level.
Whether you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes, complications can be severe, from heart failure to blindness to kidney disease. That's why managing diabetes is so crucial. But that doesn't mean you have to be sitting alone this holiday season. Lisa Goldsmith with Morrison Healthcare Food Services at Marlborough Hospital has tips for helping people with diabetes cope with the challenges of holiday get-togethers.
They can plan ahead. If they're going to an event, they can find out what the menu is in advance and make a mental note of the things that they can eat so that when they do get to the party, they can make better choices. They can use the rate your plate approach, in which 25% of your plate should be a starchy item, 25% should be a high protein item, and then half of the plate should be vegetables. And then they can have some fresh fruit or a small, very small sweet treat, because everybody likes a little something sweet at the holidays. The other approach is to put the day back in holiday and enjoy a special treat only on the day of the holiday versus enjoying throughout the entire season. Okay. Other strategies they can employ: if they're hosting a party, they can send doggy bags home with their guests.
People with diabetes can also bring their own diabetes-friendly meals or desserts to this season's holiday get-togethers. Chef Alan Hawley demonstrates how to make a recipe from artificial sweetener Splenda's website.
Basically, it's a general gingerbread recipe. Has flour, Splenda, ginger, little molasses, cinnamon, nutmeg, little ground clove, eggs, baking soda, baking powder, water, and that's about it. It's a basic cookie recipe. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to combine all your dry ingredients, which is your flour, baking soda, baking powder, your spices, again, a cinnamon, nutmeg, ground cloves, a little bit of salt. After you have that well incorporated in a separate bowl, you're going to add in some butter. Get a little softener so you can be able to cream it. Add a little bit of 1 cup of the Splenda into that as well. Get into a nice creamy consistency. Add in 2 eggs, 1 cup of molasses, and then 3 tablespoons of water. Once you get all that combined into a liquid, you're going to add the 2 ingredients and mix very well. Once you get all your ingredients incorporated, the best thing to do is chill your dough for about 2 hours or so in a covered container in the refrigerator, just so it doesn't dry out. This will make the dough a lot easier to roll, a lot easier to work with when you're cutting out your cookies. After 2 hours, pull it out, bring your bowl out, let it sit for about maybe 15 minutes just to get your bowl up to room temperature again. Makes your dough a little bit more easier to work with. And that's where we are at this point in time. So we're just going to roll out some of these cookies. We have some cookie cutters here, and then we're just going to bake them in the oven. Going to use a 350-degree oven for about 8 to 10 minutes, and then pull them out and let them cool.
For more information on diabetes and recipes that are suitable for it, visit www.diabetes.org, the website of the American Diabetes Association. For Marlborough Magazine, I'm Sophie Burke.
Recently, the Marlborough High School hosted an education forum. The host, the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce, and its members were able to see what the school has to offer.
On Thursday, November 10th, Marlborough High School gave residents and businesses of Marlborough a chance to see what the school has to offer for students and the community. The event was sponsored by the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce and featured an art and technology exhibit as well as a performance by the MHS a cappella choir. MHS students were also given the opportunity to showcase how they have benefited from various programs and clubs available to them as part of the high school's ongoing commitment to provide a comprehensive curriculum.
I think it's one of the best programs in the school. We have the best technology in the school, I think.
And we really had the opportunity to showcase what Marlborough High School was all about today. We did it through academics, but more importantly, we brought the students to actually tell their own story about Marlborough High School.
Obviously, at the high school level, it's the culmination of 13 years of schooling for our kids. But we clearly think that the opportunities that the Marlborough Public Schools give students and families are absolutely second to none.
The quality of education at Marlborough High School is top-notch. It's truly first class. Our students are our future.
Overall, the Education Showcase gave Marlborough a chance to see that its future lies in good hands. For Marlborough Magazine, I'm Rob O'Keefe.
That will do it for another issue of Marlborough Magazine. Can you believe we've already gone through another calendar year?
That was very fast.
This is too fast.
I know.
This is getting scary now.
It is.
It really is.
Slow down.
Well, you know what's also scary is we do have some big changes coming to channels 8 and 10, but we're only teasing, so we're not allowed to tell you very much. But we're going to tell you there are some big changes to look for in January.
I don't even know them.
You don't even know them.
That's how secret they are.
I'm the one who put them together, and I don't even know what the changes are, so that's how secretive it is at this point. But we hope you enjoy your holidays. From all of us here at Channel 8 and 10, have a good one.
I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. For my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise,
he did the mash.
He did the monster mash.
The monster mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
He did the mash.
It caught on in a flash.
He did the mash.
He did the monster mash. From my love Notori in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast. The ghouls all came from their humble abodes to catch a jolt from my electrode.
They did the mash.
They did the monster mash.
The monster mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
They did the mash.
It caught on in a flash.
They did the mash.
It did the monster mash. The zombies were having fun. The party had just begun. The guests included Wolfman, Dracula, and his son. The scene was rocking, oh, we're digging the sounds. Igor on chains, backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group, the Crypt Kicker 5.
They played the mash.
They played the monster mash.
The monster mash.
And it was a graveyard smash.
They played the mash.
It's caught on in a flash.
They played the mash.
They played the monster mash.